I'm Jay Williams. I'm the head of faculty and academic development here at the Risk and Insurance Education Alliance. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of symbols. In the business auto coverage form, symbols are on the first page. That tells me that ISO thinks they're very important. When an accident occurs, the first question we ask is if the auto in the accident is a covered auto. If not, then no coverage exists. If it is, then our next question is, does the operator have insured status? If that answer is yes, then we start looking at the insuring agreements and the exclusions and the exceptions to those exclusions and then any related endorsements. But how do we know if an auto is a covered auto? Well, the first place we want to look is item 2 of the declarations. In the column, that's the second column from the left, is where we input symbols, and we can have multiple symbols in any box. In fact, many times we do. Now, what are those symbols that we might put in those boxes? Well, our first symbol is symbol 1, and symbol 1 is any auto. The only words that we use, any auto. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means it's very broad. Well, how broad is it, you say? Well, let's talk about a court case that involved the national pizza chain. This was a corporate store in California, and they had a business auto coverage form with symbol 1. They did have a $1 million self-insured retention, so there was a lot of skin in the game. They had an employee who worked 31 hours straight. So they finally said, look, you have to clock out and go home. You got to get some rest. So the employee clocks out and heads home. Well, home was about 60 miles away. Now, on the way home, the employee fell asleep at the wheel, crossed over the center line, and hit another vehicle head on. In that accident, one person was killed and one person was seriously injured. Obviously, the lawsuit ensued, and the pizza chain is getting sued for the bodily injury that resulted from that accident. As the court case went up through the appellate system, the pizza chain argued that symbol 1 didn't apply because it was after business hours. I mean, the employee had clocked out, and now the employee is on their way home. They're no longer employed at that point. Well, the court disagreed. The court said, look, if you had used symbol 9, then symbol 9 would limit coverage to business hours. But symbol 1 covers regardless of when the accident occurs. Now, keep in mind, we can only use symbol 1 for liability. As you can see, it's extremely broad. And it includes coverage that we would normally need to add other symbols for, like hired and non-owned auto, because any auto means any auto. Symbol 8 is for hired or borrowed or rented vehicles. Now, this is coverage for you. And when I say you, I'm talking about the named insured. In the preamble of the policy, we define the term you to mean the named insured, and that could be one or more, but whatever, whoever is named on the declarations becomes the you in the policy. They're the named insured or the named insureds. Now, this symbol specifically excludes any vehicles that are owned by the employee or the partners of a partnership or the members of an LLC or any members of their household. Now, the other thing that we need to keep top of mind is, does our insured ever rent vehicles? If they rent or borrow vehicles on a regular basis, we may need to have hired auto physical damage. That means we need to use symbol 8 to trigger coverage for comprehensive or specified causes of loss and collision. Symbol 9 is used for non-owned autos. These are vehicles that the named insured doesn't own, but they're used to further the named insured's business or personal affairs. Another thing we have to be aware of is that this symbol, symbol 9, only applies to you or the named insured. It does not apply to anyone using their vehicle for the furtherance of the named insured's business or personal affairs. There are endorsements we can add to give some coverage back for employees or partners or members of the LLC, but they are not automatically included here. This is just coverage for the named insured. There's another symbol that we can use that's added by way of endorsement, the CA 9954 covered auto designation symbol endorsement adds symbol 10 to the policy. Now, this adds just one more way to tailor coverage for the specific needs of our insured. For example, I can use that endorsement, and I can say in the endorsement, because it's blank, I can say all vehicles 2020 or newer, including newly acquired vehicles. And then what I do is I trigger my physical damage coverages with that. That tells me right away that all vehicles 2020 and newer are going to automatically have physical damage coverage, but anything older than 2020 will not. Symbols 5 and 6 are only used when there is a compulsory insurance law in place. For example, symbol 5 is for those vehicles that are subject to compulsory no fault. So in Florida, for example, we have compulsory no fault. And so as a result, we would use symbol 5, but Texas does not. Texas has elective no fault. And so in Texas, we would not use symbol 5 to trigger no fault coverage. We would use one of our other symbols. There's about 8 states that have compulsory no fault, and about 25 to 30 states that have no fault in general. Many of them, other than those 8, not compulsory. And then there are some states that have compulsory uninsured motorists. And so when they have compulsory uninsured motorists, we use symbol 6. If they don't, if we can elect or reject uninsured motorists, then we would use one of our other symbols. Finally, I want to just reiterate that symbols 2, 8, and 9 do not equal 1. 2 is owned autos, 8 is hired or borrowed autos, and 9 is non-owned autos used to further the insured's business. While that is broad, as we saw in the case for symbol 1, it's not as broad as symbol 1. So 2, 8, and 9 do not equal 1. That's the main thing.